So welcome to this Modern SOC and Security Copilot hosted by us from Nixu, and then we have a guest star from Microsoft here present. Gonna go through a bit how we run SOC with the Microsoft stack, a modern SOC, and then we're gonna have a short intro to Security Copilot. So welcome and hope you enjoy. The questions will be added later. There's a QA session in this webinar. So the agenda today is first start with a bit with the Nixu End-to-End Security Partner of the Year 2023 nomination done by Microsoft. That was a cool feat from us. Then we're gonna go and talk about the operating SOC with Microsoft Security Stack. That'll be done by me. And then the Extended Detection and Response, or XDR, at the core of security operations done by my colleague here. And then we have a Microsoft Security Copilot, as I said, and then at the end we have a short or longer QA session with the audience. Depends how actively you're asking questions. So a little bit of introductions. Then you can actually go first, Olli.
Okay, thank you, Antti. Yeah, well, my name is Olli Paasikoski, and I work as a Microsoft security architect at Nixu. So, well, as a security architect, focus area is on the mic. I do work in a lot of customer engagements, and I also try to make sure that Nixu, as a service provider, gets the most out of the Microsoft ecosystem, the tooling that Microsoft puts out, and that we stay ahead of the roadmap, which is of course very quickly progressing when it comes to Microsoft as a massive platform provider.
Yeah.
About my background, so about 6 years ago I moved to Dublin, to Ireland, to work for Microsoft. And that was my first role in IT and security, but also in technical pre-sales. So I actually worked for the past about 6 years in Dublin, working with Microsoft Defender, Sentinel in pre-sales engagements with Finnish and Dutch customers. And yeah, so now it's been I moved back to Finland about a month ago, so it's been an exciting time to join Nixu and to work on this side of the fence instead of the technology provider. Thank you.
You had some hobbies there too.
Right, yeah. So, some to mention, wall climbing, yes. It's been a passion of mine for almost a decade now. I'm terrible at chess, but I played way too often, especially at the Nixu offices. We have a very active chess community at the moment. And yes, I'm a sucker for a good pint of Guinness.
Who wouldn't be?
Sure.
Can't blame you. So I guess me next. I'm Antti Pettinen. I'm the SOC Solutions and Development Manager. My title is a very handful, and it's actually lacking one part because I also lead the architecture team, but would have needed 2 roles for the title. So maybe we'll discuss a bit about that title with my manager. But then I had quite a long background in IT, starting from, I don't know if you really count back from the early 90s. So I'm like a computer kid from there, all kinds of computer stuff. I do have a PhD, but that's from computational neuroscience, so it's kind of like not really related to this, but I've always worked on IT stuff. And then eventually ended up in Nixu, having been in startups, having been in enterprises, working as a architect or actually a software development a bit, and this kind of stuff. So all kinds of things. I'm interested in multiple things, but now at Nixu for 2 years doing only cybersec. Well, the actual cybersec career is probably 10 years old already. So I started working on that field. Then my hobby is football. You can see from the hat probably. Then I like mountain biking trails quite a lot, beer, and then And then there's an anecdote from my colleague, shout out to Kata, about wishing that I was the family dog instead, because we have 2 dogs and another one of them is relatively stupid. But yeah, that's about me. And then we have Marko here.
Yeah, hi. My name is Marko Lauren, security architect, official title, senior cybersecurity technical specialist at Microsoft. Been here maybe 6-7 years. Let's say from the pretty start when we really started to roll out these security products more. And since then I'm been looking after Defender and Sentinel when it came along. Working with customers directly, so large enterprise customers and also public sector customers. Been involved pretty much all of them here in Finland. Yeah, hobbies. I do karate and also mountain biking with some sort of a mix with those. Something in the summer, something in the winter. So, shall we start?
Yes.
Great.
So
And by the way, I need to say, you said that other side of the fence. I hope there's not that high fence between us.
It's been a good collaboration.
Yeah.
That's why we are here.
Sidestep.
Yeah. Anyway, a couple of words about Nixu. We are a trusted partner for cybersecurity services. There's over 400 at Nixu, and then some of you, or many of you probably know that we are being acquired or were acquired by DNB, so that's another 100 on top. So about 500 cybersecurity specialists, am I right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So, and the purpose of our company is to make the cyberspace more secure. Guess that's it. Ensure that the digital businesses keep on running and the digital society running. I guess we had that slogan once. I'm not sure if we're supposed to use that, but I liked it a lot. So it's a cool and founded in 88, publicly listed in 2014, still publicly listed for a while, but then we're gonna be out from the stock because of the DNB acquisition. But that's not the topic today, so let's move forward. We also won this Partner of the Year awards.
That's
you are
right.
in the
Well,
picture, you can tell more.
I might comment because I was so graciously invited to stand in the picture, even though, but
Yeah.
to be fair, I've only been with Nixu for a good month now. Well, the Partner of the Year award, I'm sure it's a testament to how active Nixu is in the Microsoft marketplace. You know, taking advantage of a very comprehensive set of Microsoft tooling in running advanced security operations for our customers, and of course this is as one of the market leading security vendors in the Nordics and globally. I'm sure this is the direction that we want to also advance in the future. So we were very glad to accept this award a few weeks back, and we look to regain the title again next year for sure.
Sure.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank
I wasn't in the picture. I avoid that kind of situation. Not really. Anyway, a couple of more words on Nixu and the services we provide. So basically this pie diagram or whatever this is called is we start or at the center is the business resilience. So what we do at the core is to ensure that our customers' businesses keep on running and the business continuity for our clients. And for that we use things like the Microsoft Security Stack to do that. And basically there's this on the outer circle you can see this assess, protect, monitor and remediate. I guess today we are most talking about the partially protect, but monitor, also a bit of assessment stuff, but gonna touch that topic a bit in my side. But yeah, they got to remember that we are here to protect the business and keep that running, so that's important. And Microsoft Stack is actually pretty good for that, based on our experience, and that's why I'm gonna talk about next for the operating the SOC with Microsoft Security Stack. So a bit background, because there's a story behind everything. So basically this is going a bit to the history, sort of like how we've ended up here, is that we first started basically collecting log for compliance. This happened many moons ago that this happened, you probably remember both. And then basically because we started collecting those logs, at some point there were these requirements set by different institutes and companies and all this, but mostly for compliance stuff. But then when you have the data, you start looking at what else can we see from this data. So that's one thing, and it has been growing more and more. I mean, when I started, there was very little of this kind of security stack or even CMs existing. Actually, they were like SIM and SEM. The what is security event management, and the other one is security something management. I can't remember what. But basically, those things combined to SIMs, and then we started, and that's kind of like what Sentinel is nowadays. Because of the business critical software landscape keeps on expanding, these like traditional methods don't really cut. I guess we agree on that. That the
Definitely.
traditional way of taking data in and just looking at it and thinking like what can we see from it, this doesn't really cut. Organizations are much more complex. I guess this shows more on your line of work when you talk to the customers. I mean, you're doing a bit of pre-sales on us, so on our side, and definitely you too.
Yeah, many of the conversation we are doing around XDR and CM is that whole transformation, what used to work at least in some level in the past, it's just not that anymore. They are much more complex, and you need to find the small things, and if anybody can help, we are happy to get that.
The amount of data is just growing exponentially, so it's really hard. The haystack gets higher and bigger, so we want to do something with that. So that's why this sort of the story must go on that side. I guess in our, because I do a lot of the like technical architecture and stuff, what we've seen is the traditional monitoring doesn't really, it leaves certain gaps there. Cannot address them. They're either too slow, or it's really hard to do detections, or write meaningful rules, or anything like this. So the static rule thing, those are good, but kind of need more, which is probably something that you're gonna talk later, a bit more about the XDR and that stuff.
Yeah, I suppose if the SIEM solutions would have met their promises that were made, that they would compile all the data, then it would become be able to detect and respond to any threat, then we wouldn't have those requirements that the XDR that we will talk about later, what it's trying to achieve. So
and I guess one thing is that it's really hard to do posture with security posture with SIEM.
That's
there
right.
is something else there through that. So basically, as I mentioned already, the common problems that still persist is that the need for monitoring keeps on increasing as digitalization needs the work, basically. And we already touched that we need to be able to ingest more and more data in. If you think about like things like how many business critical applications run in companies, how much data people handle day to day on their devices, that's growing and growing, and now we've seen this AI ML stuff coming, so you get all of that added to the, we're gonna touch about that a bit later. And then, but still we have like also that the amount of data increases, but then you have the scalability and reliability problems, that when you start ingesting a lot of data to a CM system, that gets kind of clogged. It's really hard because it's not designed to actually do that on a very high scale, because you're running basically a database in the background. And we've seen this at Nixu, and that's why we have the data lake that I'm going to touch next a bit, that we are going to come. But how does it look at your side actually on Microsoft? You see a lot of like...
Yeah, well, pretty similar. I strongly agree that the whole attack surface thing, it's expanding. So that we need to protect, of course, but we need to monitor even more on that, and I totally agree. So
yeah, and you have application. That's why we run also the application SOC, and then we have our OT SOC both built on Microsoft.
And many times, for example, typical example is the server monitoring.
Yeah.
Most of the customers, they are just monitoring the critical servers
Yeah.
because of the limitations in traditional or legacy CMs, may I say.
Yeah.
So they just can't handle the amount of data.
Yeah, exactly.
And now when we take the cloud scale, we can just push everything, and especially for, of course, the detection is crucial part, but think about threat hunting.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
just have a couple of servers, you're hunting against them. Well, it's not what you should be doing.
Exactly. And also the threat modeling, that if the threats are actually modeled properly, because I mean typically you look at the chain of events happening, so not one piece of stuff. That also gets more and more complex when you add more systems to it. But now, as I said, next is this what we actually do at Nixu with this, is that Sentinel is one of our main SIEM systems that we deploy, getting more and more traction actually. A lot we see. It's a good product. Then we've added also the data lake on top of that to address this data stuff, or on top, on the side, more or less. So basically the fundamentals on that, the idea with this combination is that we only send the relevant data to real-time security monitoring, which basically means that the data that is needed to do detections is only fed there. But then there's a lot of other data, typically like firewalls or some network data, that is very good for investigative purposes or threat hunting, because you can hunt for indications of compromise from there, but they are not really for detections, like constantly doing detection, constant monitoring. And that, as you said, that would be really expensive to do in a SIEM, and then you would be limited also to the capabilities of the SIEM system, like custom query language and that stuff. But with data lake, you can do a bit more, actually, because you have more flexibility. And luckily, you have built this, that these happen to work quite nice together, so it's kind of cool. So basically, as the data ingested data lake, so we can use those like threat hunting, as you mentioned, or advanced threat hunting, do better forensics, and we also get the long-term data storage there, because it's actually designed to do data storage, which CM really isn't. It's not a data storage. It's for analytics. And the nice thing is about this is that it actually can be used by multiple parties, which means like us running the service. I don't know, maybe Microsoft would like to step in. Or actually when you're working and helping your customer with a totally different topic, like debugging infra, you can still go and look the logs there.
Yeah, because it's the use cases expand to outside of detection and analytics. So
exactly.
we can bring in performance counters and anything that we can use to have meaningful metadata for forensics, for example. That doesn't belong in the SIEM, but is useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's one of the key promises, really, what customers like here with Sentinel is that, well, ultimately they don't want to own products.
Yeah.
But they want to own their own security, and they don't want to maintain some product doing the security for them. But suddenly, when the CM is in the cloud, more like in a SaaS PaaS way of working, so they don't need to care about owning the product, but they care about owning the data. So the data persists in their tenant, they own it, and just figure out what the MSSP does for it, and then maybe they are running on tier 3 or some forensics, they can use the same data. So that's one of the really interesting things, and many of the customers have been talking that which has some legacy, or let's say, maybe I forget that, but on-prem CM, they have traditional SIEM. They have never logged into there. They may have access, but they don't even know how to get there. And if they get there, they have no idea what to do with it. Exactly. So when they have it in there, they can just log in and intuitively do something there. Yeah. That's like a really important for them.
I agree, and it's more like, and it also, when you look at it from the MSSP perspective, it's good that the customer has a bit more knowledge also there. I'm not against of that, even though they buy a service from us, but it's good that we have this, and then you can talk about the same stuff with the same wording and same language. So it's better for the collaboration. I think that's a very good point on that. So we have the actual why. I already switched the slides on the background because we went to this topic. So using this, both the Sentinel and the Gen 2 data lake side by side is basically, it also has this cost saving stuff, of course, because it's cheaper to store stuff there instead of the log analytics workspace, although then you can use also basic logs and things like this, which is, we use all of the, then we have data collection rules and stuff like this also. It's also something that we use. It's quite nice product for that flexibility. But there are, as you mentioned, one of the big things that we get feedback from the customers is that there's fewer of these infra headaches. I mean, with these traditional SIEMs, sometimes they are hosted with the customer or some co-hosting, or we host it, but it's hosted somewhere, physically somewhere. And that always comes with some
Maintenance
stuff, and you have to allocate
vulnerabilities.
Yeah, all of this stuff, and kind of like put. And personally, I think like Microsoft probably does this better than most of the companies, because that's kind of your core stuff, and you've been doing that quite a lot. I think I'm quite good with infra, but I still don't think that I can run it better than Microsoft can. So that's also a good thing from our perspective, actually.
That's right.
And coming back to this data lake is pretty interesting as well, because when we come to customers who run traditional SIEMs, the project has been that, okay, let's just ingest everything and see what we can do with the data.
Yeah, exactly.
And we first of all transform that data. When you are moving to cloud SIEM, think why you're doing this.
Yeah,
It's a security events, security incidents, not your dump yard where you put everything. So that's the first phase. They compare that, okay, we push 500 gigs to on-prem SIEM. What would it cost in Sentinel? Don't do that.
Yeah, they ask us the same thing.
Think why you're doing that, and what's your plan. Well, of course, we may have this compliance reason still, why we need to
preserve. Not for that.
Yeah,
CM is not for
that's not
storage.
Exactly. So that's where this data lake and the ingestion tiers come into play. That of course you need to optimize the security with some costs as well. But it's really interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a very good point about the traditional approach has been that we just take all the data, or we get data in. I kind of probably shouldn't get started on this, because those who know this is my favorite topic, talking about log sources and use cases, because I kind of think that's old way of thinking, because it makes no sense. It comes with the implication that you take in data and then you look at the data and thinking, what can I see? Instead of approaching it, as you said, what is actually the threats and why are we doing this? It's is this for compliancy? Let's put it to whatever better storage for compliancy. You can use, for some documents or stuff, you can use even like a bucket, or whatever kind of object storage even for that in some cases. But then, then you need to look at the threats and what is critical in your organization, and then start from there. And that's what we do with our customers when we approach them. I guess you are more involved in that also, having those talks, and they come and ask about this, 500 gigs, how much is that gonna be in daily ingestion costs?
Yeah, well, since I've started at Nixu, I've been able to follow, only a few, but I've been able to follow deployment or migration projects from either deploying Sentinel from scratch or migrating from an existing SIEM solution to Sentinel. And of course, an important part of that planning and migration is to consider the real value of every existing log source, or source of logs that we decide to bring into the new SIEM installation, and then that kind of use case or threat modeling that's core of that to understand the value.
Yeah, and the world has changed a lot between that previous SIEM project.
Yeah,
I've seen many customers that, okay, we are ingesting this and this and this, and over time they have invested in XDR, for example. The life has changed so much with them over let's say only EDR. That's the first thing when you have incident, the analysts go, and see what we see in EDR or XDR, and the need of those old logs. I don't know how much they are looked anymore.
Yeah, they are mostly, and this is actually like a good point, because when we are doing in this migration, as Olli said, we get asked like, okay, we have this like network logs which are like very noisy. You get a lot of data in. That's costly to put anywhere. Actually, it's costly to store anywhere, even if on prem it's gonna take a lot of like disk space. But the thing is that when we see like, okay, you have an EDR, we don't actually need this. You know that we can see the stuff already from the endpoint where the traffic actually originates from, and not on the wire, which is a good, as you mentioned, it's way better for the analysts and everybody to see it at the source, and preferably if it's like internal communications on both sides, like the receiving and ending, and then you can do much better responses on those, because each detection should have a response. Just don't do detections on detections.
And we are integrating even the NDR parts
Yeah.
in the Windows already, so it's inbuilt. Defender use those signals as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very useful tool stack for us. And yeah, we kind of touched the ease of integration, which is really nice. That's a good feature for us doing this, and all those detection capabilities, those signals, and all the constant development is something that I like quite a lot. And kind of like going to the real life wins seen by an MSSP. We've seen quite a lot of growth on this, to be honest, with our customers, existing and new. But the ease of deployment is one thing, because we've observed up to 50% faster deployment times, which is actually it's a significant amount of money for the customer, and it also is good for us because we get things faster to production. We can actually start building the capabilities and deeper, because deployment should be only the starting point of your collaboration, not like that you buy one cyber and slap this on and then you're happy.
That's right.
Yeah, of course it's a different from like a real deployment.
Yeah.
But we do lots of these POCs of pilots in our side, and I don't think the customers really believe when I say that, okay, we can spin it up in an hour and you have lots of data in. Really? Well, we are not ordering hardware. We are not installing operating system or anything like that. So and because it's inbuilt to their existing investments so closely already, so it's really quick.
It's a very easy switch on that side, and it's a good product. So it's a good thing for us. I mean, it helps us quite much that we get to operate on with this tax, especially when we get the XDR and all that stuff. There are of course other options, but this is one, and we see a lot of this Microsoft and have a very little issues. And because I'm responsible for running the infra, I kind of like the idea that I sleep my nights better when there's somebody else at Microsoft taking care of it, not some of our own staff people, which are doing a great job, but it's, scaling is hard. I have 10 years of trying to do scaling, and it's kind of complex stuff. Still don't know how to do it. But
That's right.
Now, you mentioned the stability previously when we were discussing about this webinar overall. So what can you tell about the stability of, like at the Sentinel, and if you compare it to something else that...
It's really stable. I mean, sometimes the portal might be off, but that's normal. It's a web portal. But still the things on the background, the actual core runs. We still get the integrations run, the APIs work still.
Yeah.
That's nice, because, I mean, we are an MSSP, so it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that our analysts don't go and look each CM system separately. We have a source system collecting all stuff, like pretty much every MSSP has, so or should have. But basically all that integration stuff, we see very little problems with that. Of course, there's sometimes hiccups, but it's usually an internet, like network level hiccup or something.
DNS.
Yeah, well, always DNS, of course, or BGP, but which is a horrible protocol. Anyway, yeah, but yes, I lost my train of thought.
Let's go on.
Very stable in production. Right?
Yes, it is.
And, it's just reminded me because I've also experienced how easy it is to deploy and configure Microsoft products into a proof of concept or a pilot phase for testing. But something that I experienced when I joined Nixu as a service provider is that there's a lot that entailed when configuring these solutions.
Because we have to actually run it in production.
Yeah, on a scale.
And even document what you're doing.
Yeah, and to ensure that consistency and stability of the services to
exactly.
have it very well.
But that's one thing, because then we can focus on doing actually the core stuff. I mean, we are not an infrastructure provider. We have to run infra because to provide our services. But the less we can focus on the infra stuff and actually building around that infra, things like automations and stuff, which this makes easy, it's a big win for us as an MSP too.
That's right.
We can do that more flexibly and not having to do everything from scratch ourselves, because it's not really our core business. We need to and want to rely on the tools. But anyway, kind of touch the topics on this slide. But the one thing here is they still need to say that the flexibility we touched the topic, but the XDR stuff, advanced threat hunting, and as I mentioned, we already have started building this application SOC, OT SOC, this kind of new SOC concept. And so far we've basically built the POCs for each of these, what I call like SOC add-ons, like application SOC and OT SOC and so forth. They are built on Microsoft stack, and it's because it's quite fast to do the POC also for us. And then we extend this, of course, to other products, because we're not all Microsoft only shop, even though we like to collaborate with you. Business is business, so. But that's kind of one thing, that it's easy to build these POCs also on top, because you have the Defender family. There's a lot of stuff. For example, OT side, you get the IoT Defender, for example, and all this stuff. And your side is the XDR, that's expanding constantly, so we get a lot of stuff there. And also now started doing the future with the data lake, which is that we get the structured data ready for analytics. I didn't want to mention what kind of analytics, but you can guess what we are planning on. I guess you are going to delve a bit more into that topic, but I'm not going to share much. But yeah, it's clearly that we need the data lake for future purposes, so to say. Maybe more on that later. But yeah, there's a summary slide for my section, I guess. The total cost of ownership, which comes mostly from the amount of work you do. Less work for us, and also for the customer. And also the data lake helps in that quite a lot, because you get the ingestion, and you actually ingest only the right data that you need, and the rest can be there, the data lake. Operational costs we touched quite much. Then also one thing that forgot to almost mention is that there's also, because the stack works nicely together, get the defenders and all that stuff, and the data is like nicely represented in a kind of like a cool, good form, that they are correlations and stuff are easy, because the data models are kind of like the same. So it means that we've seen this mean time to resolution, and that has also dropped on our side because of the data readily, because you can get to the defender for endpoints, for example, really easily and fast from the same, basically portal, or same. I think they're technically two different portals, but same logins, all that works, and that's really important, that we can use like Azure AD and all that stuff, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's been quite high in our roadmap to really bring everything together. If you think about Defender 3 years ago, there was Defender for this and that, and maybe even other names. We are good at changing the names, but they were in a separate consoles.
Yeah.
And even if they were sharing the data or somehow integrated just by checkbox, and they are integrated, but now for maybe a year or two, they have been really in a one portal. Sentinel is still in the different, but really the idea is to have like a security platform. It's in your hands. One single pane of glass. I don't like that term typically, because you still open many tabs, even if they are in the same console. But that's what we are really driving.
Yeah, but I like it, and all the integrations in the background. I'm an infra background person, so for me that the APIs, and that is really cool. All the automations that we like to do.
Yeah.
I'm not a graphical user interface type of a person. I'm more of a command line and Vim type of person.
But also I want to mention that we're also quite excited about the Microsoft has a promising roadmap in consolidating these two.
Yeah.
With last week, I think it was the public preview of multi-tenant organizations for Microsoft 365 Defender. So we're excited to be testing that in some lab environments and see how our security analyst might be able to take advantage of that in the future. Also, probably the convergence of the Defender for Cloud, which is in the Azure portal, into the Defender for portal in the future is something that we've heard talks about. So even further bringing those views together is of course something that our analysts will benefit.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like they're on the stronger capabilities to detect adversaries stuff there. And this is actually a good segue to your part. So go ahead, I'll give you this one.
Okay, thank you, Antti.
It operates from the buttons.
Great.
No touch.
So, in my portion of this webinar, I wanted to talk to you about extended detection and response, something that I believe there was a study that the majority of security professionals today, they have a in-depth understanding of what XDR is. But just in case you haven't, we're going to try to explain it.
And it's fun. Sorry to interrupt. Funny thing is that everything is now XDR. Even the old CMs, they brand themselves as XDR, and EDRs suddenly become XDRs. So I'm a little bit cautious with that term because everybody wants to be. Yeah, everybody wants to be XDR nowadays.
Nobody wants to say that they have a CM system, even though they have it like it's like if you use duck typing, it like quacks like a seam and walks like a seam.
Right.
Looks like a seam, so I think it's a seam, but then it's like suddenly XDR. Well, it's marketing, and I'm an engineer, so
yeah.
That's right. Well, we'll describe one interpretation of what XDR is.
Yeah.
Hopefully, something that matches the Gartner definition and the view of the audience, and how that functions in the core of managed security services like the Nixu SOC operation. And how do they benefit from such new technology like XDR? And to be able to explain the why and how these kind of new solutions have been built, I wanted to introduce a few problems that are relevant to what we're trying to solve here. And well, the first one is quite obvious. We have the sophistication and volume of attacks that our customers are facing. We're always trying to put in new security controls and monitoring. For example, for the latest years, just implementing multi-factor authentication has been something that we've been with different types of methods has been something that we really wanted to get out of the gate. But then on the other hand, then we have new emerging attack types like man-in-the-middle attack that then bypass those MFA controls. So we always have this arms race going on. And on the other hand, we have what you were, Antti, talking about, the ever increasing complexity in hybrid and cloud environments. And of course, the innovation is not going to stop. So we'll keep on exposing more attack vectors for the adversaries.
Yeah, there's all these kind of small funny apps in the company that nobody knows who uses, and then they are kind of like actually containing some data there.
Shadow IT and a lot of my customers, they've been struggling with these new cloud native BOS and EOS service types because they expose different types of attack techniques and need new experience.
Yeah.
And we all know the challenges of vulnerability management. You know, the amount of vulnerabilities keeps expanding, and we're really struggling to keep up with prioritization of what are we going to fix first, and we're never going to be able to patch everything. So it'll always leave us to exposed to some certain amount of risk.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about vulnerability management anymore. I want to talk posture management, because vulnerabilities people think that it's the software vulnerability over there, and we need to patch it. But it's so much more, especially when you are not able to patch any vulnerabilities, let's say in the cloud anymore. But it's more like a configuration issues and everything.
Yeah, we see that more. These config issues especially, and this is kind of like on the AppSoc side when we do that. We see a lot of these configuration issues. It has changed. So I think you're right with the, instead of vulnerabilities, it should probably be, myself included, talking about posture.
Yeah, but we do have vulnerabilities, but I want to take it to the higher layer.
Subset of the posture.
And still thinking about the new workloads, many of customers are running some Kubernetes cluster in the cloud, and they have a like a container there in the registry, and then they take it to run in the cluster. The existing vulnerability management solution doesn't scan those at all. So you need to evolve in the vulnerability management side, but also in the posture side. Like a SaaS, we have a huge amount of SaaS applications, which is a configuration issues, like MFA. MFA is a posture issue. So first you fix that, then you figure out that the adversaries are laughing at your MFA, and then you need to figure out something more to fix your posture.
Exactly.
True that.
Well said. And of course, we do deal with the shortage of security professionals. Not every company or organization has even a SOC provider, and many struggle to keep up with the pace of security demands internally, and even working with a SOC provider, you do need that is the.
There needs to be a counterpart. You cannot go and buy one cyber, please. It doesn't work like that.
That's right. So, given all of these problems, and something that I want to try to achieve here is to try to explain the use cases for XDR, because usually use cases is something that helps you perhaps understand the value of the technology. So on the slide here we see a kind of a typical ransomware attack, how it and the timeline of it, where the attacker has a first point of breach using an email-based attack, and then that escalates all the way to a ransomware incident impacting the actual production workloads. But something that we quite often see, and this is quite relevant to for example, the security analyst or whomever has the shared responsibility of monitoring the alerts coming in, is that our customer might have a prominent leading EDR solution. So we have endpoint-based detection of a malware that was hopefully blocked or quarantined. And as an incident on its own, it might not be all that alarming. It's just there was a detection of a malicious entity, but that was and there was a appropriate response to it. And but in the back end of the extended detection and response, the technology is able to share that information and work with shared telemetry from the email security tooling, the identity, the user entity behavior analytics, and network-based sensors to create this broader understanding of what is happening in the environment. And in fact, so when we do look at the postmortem of such an event, it could be that the malware in question was able to extract some production identity or credentials or tokens, and that those credentials were then used to access some other production service of the customer. And so then we're of course dealing with a much broader and more severe incident that should have higher priority. And on the other hand, it could be that this malware, that it was delivered using email, and it was also delivered to a few of your VIP or C-level members of your staff, and that it needs to be, and that those should be purged to as soon as possible to remediate that attack. So, and all of these connections between these two different types of alerts, it's previously been the responsibility of the security analyst to kind of make these connections in their head. And the kind of idea of extended detection and response is that we can build built-in analytics within the backend that creates these meaningful correlations between the alerts using different metadata that we have available through the tooling. So with a major platform vendor like Microsoft, these correlation rules and analytic rules have been built in to the.
That's what I referred to with the correlation. It's really cool to see that with all of these like different defenders or whatever. Like you would sort of get a lot of stuff built in that we traditionally had to build ourselves. It's of course cool stuff to do from an engineering point of view, but it's also like a lot of maintenance burden there.
Yeah.
Because you have to maintain it.
Yeah. In an old world, basically you have an alert queue.
Yeah.
And the first thing, if you are lucky to get alerts, the first thing is really are these related? Maybe I don't care, I just do this one. But now we rather, as a Microsoft, talk about incident queue, which is a correlated incident from different aspects of the attack and how the alerts are correlated within one incident, and even visually show how it went. That's really important.
I'm gonna steal that term, incident queue. Claim it mine. But
Right. Because so if we do have what we would previously call as a best of breed architecture, we have a lot of dispersed signals from many different tooling across the kill chain. That creates, of course, a lot of complexity and more demand for the security analyst to come to that root cause analysis and to understand what is actually going on. Is this something that we need to be worried about, and make that prioritization of in the SOC queue. So that's right. So what are we looking to do is to get help in prioritization of alerts based on the risk level, and that risk it's easier to perceive when we have the whole context of the alert. So if we can make those meaningful connections between alerts. That then leads us to make, of course, improved detections of advanced threats. So there will still be, of course, those single alert, for example, antivirus alerts from the endpoint. But we're really more concerned, as our organization, we're more concerned of the more advanced, complex attacks that where the adversary might be moving laterally within the environment, and that's where the extended detection and response really.
And probably slower in pace because less opportunistic attacks that are more planned and can be slow, which are really hard to detect based on like human doing these correlations when you have like a day between events.
That's right.
Or something like this, which is really hard. Nobody remembers. Or you even have a different person in the shift working.
And one way to look at this is that when you have an XDR platform, you're basically outsourcing the detection, most of the detection part. You don't need to figure out those by yourself. One way to look at that is you can really prioritize your own work for those slow attacks or advanced attacks, or AppSoc, for example, or OT.
Something else like we do in our like very customer-specific customizations that are good for this organization for reasons, because it's kind of like you, Microsoft, take the whole like holistic view. But I guess our job is to make it more custom for the customer.
Yeah, exactly.
So of course, and when we do perform forensic investigations as part of the FIR cases, then we do want to have that complete understanding of the scope and the assets involved in that case. That helps our analysts to become more efficient. Another very key aspect in XDR is the role of automation. So because we have those integrated products, and we have been the provider has been able to build a lot of built-in automations that help us to deal with the velocity of the attacks. Because oftentimes the attacker use automated tools to.
Yeah, of course they do. They are lazy as everybody, and they're professionals, so why not?
So even if we have a very efficient SOC running at Nixu, and of course we have SLA, so those tickets do get investigated in good time. But if we're talking about minutes instead of or seconds instead of minutes, then we do need to provide as much automation as we can.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the investigation is not the end result we want. We want the remediation.
Yeah, exactly.
And your SLA may not have anything to do with the resolution in the end. Hopefully it is, but it's not that the case always. And the better automations we can agree between, let's say, MSSP and customer, that what can be done and what the automation can really do.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
And the whole automation, it's so hazy term. It can be so many things, but ultimately we wanna make things faster and react faster.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
just yes, I have investigated this now, but meantime to remediation, for example. That's the key. And automation definitely will help that. Whether it's enriching incident or real automation in a way that's something really.
Yeah, like auto-isolating a device or something like this, which is very handy to do in some cases. But of course, this needs to be agreed with the org.
Yeah.
But this is good to have this capability, definitely. It's better to be safe than sorry. This is a safety business, so.
Yeah.
That's right.
We don't have the option of being sorry. We have to be safe all the time.
And I know something else that security leaders are looking for in XDR is that we'd be able to prevent future attacks. Because of course we want to.
Prevention is always better than detection.
That's right. Yeah. So the fewer alerts that we would have for our SOC to deal with, the better, of course. Now, prevention of future attacks through hardening controls or security posture management. It requires a lot of orchestration and for the different domains to talk to each other, because of course there's the IT that looks after the vulnerabilities and the posture, and then there's the security operations. But that's something that we'll also talk about in a bit. And even with all these requirements that we want to achieve with this new tooling and the promises of XDR, we on the other hand we also want to ease the management and we want to reduce costs related to security operations. So consolidation is the kind of the trend when it comes to consolidating a lot of the tooling that we use into when the benefits of that consolidation outweigh the benefits of a single best of breed tool.
Here we are talking about modern SOC, but we should still go back to the old boring cyber hygiene.
Yeah, definitely.
We wouldn't like to have any alerts over there or incidents.
Yeah.
But there's a thing called end user or something which prevents us to make better configurations, improve that hygiene, unfortunately. But that's where we need to go.
Things like business needs and something you cannot update something because it runs to something business critical. All this very I don't know, soft reasons or humane reasons, which is all fine. We are all humans, so we need to do some stuff.
And then that's a great thing for us to feed back to the SOC, the people that develop the threat hunts and for those known gaps that we know that we won't be able to patch.
It has a lot of feedback loops also to the posture from the detections and then the threat hunting aspects, as you mentioned, and all of this. That's what I like about it, because it has this natural feedback loops kind of built into the system instead of having separate tools here and there, which is really hard to do this, at least the technical feedback, or then it's kind of more depending on a person, and it's.
Actually, if you look at the Defender XDR incident nowadays, there's a tab. I don't remember some poster or remedy. I don't remember what's the name of the tab, but essentially it collects you that because you have these and these alerts, why don't fix these poster issues?
Yeah, exactly.
It's there.
Yes.
And we are really pushing people to go back to the drawing table.
And that's good. And that's how it should be, because even though like our business is to do detections and responses, what we actually want is that we need to do less of those detections. Because we also want, like, we're here for the securing the environment, not just doing detections and responses, even though it's our business. But
yeah, when you detect something, something is already happened.
yeah, exactly. I agree.
So we've been talking about a little bit about the role and the features of XDR and about the SIEM solution in the back end, and I wanted to bring this next slide to kind of a little bit talk about my experience on when I've been observing the joint investigation flow, because I've had the opportunity to sit by in the Nixu SOC and to watch them apply those Microsoft tooling in action when they at tier 1 and tier 2 analysis, and I was really happy to see how well it kind of goes with the Microsoft. What I've been taught that is the kind of the vision of how the tools are supposed to be applied. So, in a very kind of high level, of course, you can imagine this would be your tier 1 analyst. Their job is to, when there's a new incident in the queue, is to first of all decide which incident or alert to deal with. So based on the first evaluation of the severity of the alert. And then their job is to evaluate, so to understand very quickly what is the scope of the alert. Could it be a false positive or benign alert that they can just that's close as a false positive, and of course to help them do that, we want to pull as much of relevant metadata
Exactly.
for them to make this work as efficient as possible. Now, what I saw very quickly when monitoring even these tier 1 analysts would very quickly swap over to the XDR tooling, because in this case the Defender tooling, they really give them the in-depth and best of breed tooling to really understand what's going on there and to evaluate all related entities that are within the scope of the alert. Within the XDR platform, we can then evaluate any kind of automated workflows that have been triggered by the built-in workflows in the platform. And yeah, so then after this kind of the main analysis, and after the analyst would have been able to answer the most relevant questions about the alert, he will then go back into the SIEM system to perform certain kind of post analysis steps. For example, look into the ticketing system, or look into firewall logs that are relevant to that investigation and not covered by the XDR itself. And at this stage, the analyst was also able to, if they had seen that similar kind of alert happening continuously, then they can document that and make sure that goes into tuning by the SOC, so that we can remove that kind of false positives in the future. Or we can escalate that to tier 2 or tier 3 analyst with the appropriate documentation and metadata. So we can really see that, and maybe the kind of the point that I want to make is that if a customer is only relying on XDR, extended detection and response, then yes, they do have these very in-depth tooling for those vectors that are covered, but they're maybe missing the full comprehensive picture and access to all the relevant tooling.
I like to say this in a way that the XDR provides you depth, and the CM provides you breadth.
That's a
really
good definition.
Yeah,
Yes.
because, but depending on the maturity of the organization, the most gains typically come with the XDR,
Yeah, I agree.
and then when that's like that's done, then you start expanding and getting the breadth, and then the SIEM comes into play.
absolutely, yeah.
I agree.
If you have
If you look at
offshoots,
it, what you really need to do
Yeah.
viable stuff is basically, we talk about this detection domains, and one is like endpoints, and the other one is identities. When you got those two, you are pretty far already. And
Yeah.
when you get those two done properly,
Yeah.
and well, that's why we put a lot of focus on or emphasis in Nixu in those two, and very early with the customers, that we want to get this correct, because to access an environment or a customer or from an attacker, you need identity typically, and you preferably want to have an access to an endpoint there, which can be a server or any kind of device, not just like laptops endpoints, but an endpoint device. So if you have those two, then the rest is kind of like, it's not that important, I'd say. I mean, I personally, when they come and ask me like, okay, what we need to monitor from this, or talking with customers, I was like, these two domains, let's start with those and fix those first. And then we can expand to all the other stuff. And that's actually when the SIEM comes, and later data link. Because of course in investigations and stuff, you would like to have more data.
Yeah.
More is more also in data. So
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much the essence of when we talk about modern SOC today.
Yeah.
That's where we started, and like of course making it modern in every possible way, but really the getting depth look into in what is really happening, what is your situation in your organization, and the XDR provides that pretty deeply, and CM then expands it.
yeah, I agree.
yeah. And really, I think this is a kind of a recurring trend, recurring theme in also this presentation, is that how the new tooling is really helping our analysts and tier one, especially the more less experienced security professionals to understand the context of the alerts, and now with the kind of introduction to the MITRE, connecting those to known MITRE attacks and techniques, they have
cool
that.
thing.
They have that database of knowledge to rely on, and they can make more informed decisions of, okay, should I escalate this further, or what is this actually about? And okay, so this far, at least on the slides, we haven't been mentioning how the Defender and the Microsoft stack fits into the services. So I wanted to bring this slide to really highlight those. Microsoft XDR there being on one of our core service offerings. So that is a managed service that is built very focusedly around on the top of the XDR platform. So we're feeding those enriched incidents into the SOC. I'll also talk about how that kind of leans into the posture management bit. So not only in the detection and response, but you can also see that there are a lot of capabilities and service areas at Nixu that function around this detection and extended detection and response. For example, that we can produce advanced threat hunting capabilities that lean on these different telemetry or log types that are collected by the XDR platform.
You probably are surprised, but we have changed one of those names.
That's a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Right. But
it's
yeah,
like every time when you come back from vacation and Microsoft has changed everything, it's a complete new start every single time.
No.
Right.
Well, jokes aside, please continue.
Right. Yeah. Well, but as we can see, so Microsoft Sentinel as the SIEM solution and SOAR solution is at the top level, kind of providing with that breadth. But the most capabilities are coming from the in-depth tooling in the Defender suite. And something that quite a lot of that we like to talk about is the benefits of the linked service components. So this is, as Nixu as a service provider, we're able to combine these different business functions in security by providing a service that kind of leans into all. So in this slide we have the managed protection capability, usually that is usually managed by the customer IT or maybe a external IT service provider. And their responsibility is also to kind of monitor the security posture of that environment. So being able to feed in relevant insight from the XDR service to that team.
That greatly helps.
Absolutely, and so we're able to prioritize and also feed back if some high severity vulnerabilities haven't been patched over time. Now, in some cases, the IT cannot, as you said, they can't for some reason or another, they can't patch that vulnerability.
Yeah.
So then we have to tune the detections of our SOC. So we have to kind of do the handover to the managed detection and response and our SOC team to create those detections.
Yeah, or sometimes we need to like put a bit more emphasis on monitoring that if it's like a critical vulnerability, but cannot be like
exactly
now patched until the next maintenance window, for example.
Right. And on the other hand, if we do see a recurring alert type that is due to some kind of misconfiguration maybe or a known vulnerability, then we can feed that back into the security posture management function. So closing this feedback loop between the IT and the detection and response and the posture management is something that we really try to achieve through as a security service provider.
Yeah.
And when we talk about managed XDR, I really would like to see that everywhere. I mean, it's not just managed detection, but managed XDR. The XDR evolves. There's new things coming. How you catch up with those, how you take the detections and the problems back to the mitigations.
Yeah, exactly.
And that should be managed XDR. It should be like there should be a managed service for detection and response, but also managed service for the XDR in a way that how we make this better, the whole thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Like following the times and not just like putting something on once and thinking that it's gonna chuck along and keep you safe.
Yeah.
Well, that's great because it goes along with our kind of vision for the service. Yeah. So to summarize, maybe I want to bring like three points that we talked about here. I do see that our SecOps they benefit greatly from having high fidelity incidents that the XDR product is able to produce in effect over the kind of traditional low fidelity alerts queue where they have to kind of deal with every single alert on their own. Continuous security improvements coming possibly also from that XDR function with risk-based prioritization, because we have to be realistic about what we can do, and so that managed service can help especially when we're dealing with an end-to-end security service provider like Nixu. We can really we can really help our customers achieve that.
Yeah, sure.
And then that's maybe a segue to our next topic, which is the security Copilot.
Yeah.
All right.
You can go ahead.
Can I have a clicker?
Here we go.
Thank you. All right. So next up, Security Copilot. Security Copilot is a first generative AI security product. There's a whole lot of hype around this generative AI, and of course, we're going to bake it into our products as well. This was first announced in March in one of our events, and to be honest, the interest and the excitement has been, well, I'm a little bit of a tinfoil hat anyway, so the whole excitement around is huge, and everybody's interested. Everybody wants to be in that. And if we think about now the modern SOC and how we come from that to Copilot, I would say it's originally it's a transformation. Transformation from something we are going to the modern SOC, and with this Copilot, it's even more modern. Maybe some marketing people figure out better term for that, but that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And let's face it, we have been covering this already today, but I would say the odds are against us. We are happy to have any help available.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And we are attacked every day more, harder, faster. We need to keep in that pace. And on the other hand, mentioned already here that the talent it's not that easy to get new talent. And if we get them, they may move somewhere else, and they.
Yeah, and also this there's so much of this repetitive work or this kind of work that kind of I see where these helpers, co-pilots are good.
Yeah. And when we talk about generative AI, it's not just us as a blue teamers to benefit from that. Yeah. The AI is going to help the adversaries too.
Yeah, definitely.
They're going to.
It already does.
Yeah, they are. So they're going to figure out easier. They can easily come up with better techniques, more complex techniques. They can trick you do things like just translating to Finnish, let's say. Yeah. It's not an easy task in the old tools, but with this you can get quite good, and you can even say that with this team write this and that. So even if the old attack still people click those links, but getting even that better, it's not good for us. And mentioned again here, but the industry trend is that we're shifting from those disconnected point solutions to security platforms. I'm saying security platforms because we provide one. Even if we have a huge amount of stuff, it's not everything. Yeah. So customers tend to select, let's say, one or two security platforms, which they're gonna put all their eggs to gain the benefits. And actually, that is the first step of that transformation. Already mentioned what all the things we get there. Essentially, it means that we have loads of security data within one platform, and present it in a meaningful way.
Yep.
And even if we are talking now AI here in this Copilot, we already have lots of that. Yeah. I could have a 1 or 2 hour presentation about AI and ML in Microsoft Security Stack. It's everywhere. I don't know how much it's in the other business areas, but here it's been done starting from the email filtering.
There's a lot of
investigations there, correlation, detection.
It's maybe not visible.
Yeah, it's not visible. And the difference is that currently what we do in the stack, it's very task-specific models. So we have structured data, and then we have really task-specific thing what the AI or ML is doing and helping already us.
Yes.
But that's going to change. Now the step is, the next step of the transformation is ahead of us. And that's the generative AI in a way that it enables us to really generalize that whole security. It doesn't have to be in a structured format anymore. It can be unstructured. It can be human understandable natural language, what we do. Mm-hmm. And that's where we start. And if we think about the whole stack now, is that what the Security Copilot is made of. It combines basically the most advanced GPT-4 models for OpenAI. We are not using OpenAI directly, but we are using those models running in Azure. Then we cook in the Microsoft developed security-specific models into that. And with the hint, well, not just hint of, but lots of the threat intel we have. We have huge amount of it. I think we have 15 to 20 different threat intel teams which we produce, and the Security Copilot can use that threat intel. And of course, then we are powering with our unique expertise about what cyber is, how our products work, what data we have there. That's the, let's say, cookbook of the whole Security Copilot, how it works underneath. And you may be aware about, well, we are pushing this Copilot everywhere, so it's not just security. We have a Copilot in Windows, M365, GitHub, Dynamics, Power Platform, everywhere. Not going to talk about those today, but they are all different. They are going to tackle some unique challenge within that business area in a way that it helps the end users. So let's say it can summarize Teams calls. I wasn't able to be there, but here's the summary. For example, in the GitHub, it can help you code things. Yes. In security, it helps you remediate things faster. That's our problem at the moment. And if we think about look at the whole security stack we have in the left-hand side in the slide, we have the cyber security. In the bottom, we have identity management layers. And in the right-hand side, we have data security and privacy. The idea is that Copilot is going to be center of everything. It has the access to the data and can help you do that. But now in the first phase, when we are starting, we're going to really start from the left-hand side. So I would say the enablers, if you want to be Copilot ready, you need to have a Defender, you need to have Sentinel, at least in some level usage of those in order to run Security Copilot and generative AI across. Because you have to have the platform. The platform is already capable of visualizing it for you, but then when you start driving the Copilot, it needs to have the access to the data, and the data needs to be there.
And I guess the more data, the better.
Yeah.
I think that's because also with Nixu we get a lot of questions about Security Copilot, and one of the key feedback that we've been able to kind of maybe produce at this stage is that those customers that we have that are already taking advantage of XDR and Sentinel in the background, that they are very, very well prepared to make the most out of a new solution like Security Copilot. So.
Exactly.
And it's interesting to see how much that like helps the work of analysts. And I mean, like, because to me all these Copilots, like I've been testing the GitHub one, it's an old coder, so it's kind of cool. What it does for me is that I can do more of thinking and less of like writing. Yeah. Which is cool because humans still at least think better than the computer, so can actually formalize these. Yeah. Takes a bit of different approach those because you need to be able to formalize more of things like what you're after. So I'm eagerly waiting to actually get to test this at some point. I haven't had time to delve into this yet, unfortunately. But definitely something to look, because I really like the GitHub one when I gave it a go.
Yeah. All right. So the next up, basically, what challenges we're going to address. And as I said, the time is essence, so we need to allow analysts move faster, do things faster, better, delve into more complex topics faster, and so on. So the first one, response in minutes, not hours, means really that that's the whole point of it at this point. Time to focus on high-value tasks. Think it as your super assistant SOC analyst, which you can throw any tasks. Well, maybe not any, but tasks anyway. That okay, I would need to do this one. Can you do it for me? And then you can focus on something else. Exactly. And then to simplify the complex part is that. Easy example, natural language to Kusto KQL. It's a really flexible language, but it can be tricky. you can ask questions using that. You don't need to write those complex scripts. It can analyze the scripts where you see in the adversaries using. It can analyze the scripts for you. It can visualize it for you. It can analyze the malware for you. And thinking that even if you're like a really senior analyst and you could do this task, but I know it takes 1 or 2 hours.
Yeah.
What if that your assistant analyst can do it? The Copilot can do it for you, let's say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you get the results,
Right.
and you can do something else.
Yeah, this is what I actually meant. Is like you can focus on thinking and figuring out what's going on actually.
Yeah.
Is this something else? Because all this more technically probably very interesting stuff to reverse and malware or something, because I kind of like that myself, but it's still like in this kind of situation, work like situation, it's better to get those results fast. And if somebody can help you or at least give you results which you can then review that whether this makes sense, because as with humans they also tend to make mistakes, but they learn.
Yeah. Okay, and the third part is that well, we have loads of that data, and humans are not just built in a way that we figure out every detail over there.
Yeah.
When we drive with this one, they don't have that kind of problem that they miss things. That okay, there was
They don't get tired.
Yeah, they don't get tired. They don't drink coffee. So it's just there was some minor detail which I didn't think was important, or I just missed it because somebody asked me something. So having that focus and possibly catch those things what human would miss.
Yeah.
And the last one, it's really important. I think we covered it already today a little bit, that upskilling their security talent. I mean, you have these eager new analysts. They probably know that I would like to achieve this, but I don't know how. I know that this should be done, but how to use these tools, how to run queries, how to do this and that. So that's something we're really seeing already, that they can achieve more complex tasks because they can drive.
Because they got to have the thinking already, but lack the technical skills. So.
Exactly, exactly, and they can like over time they get better. They also learn from the code. It's not a black box in a way that okay, I ask something and you get the result. When you ask something, it has task. Okay, I'm looking for this one. I'm looking for this one. I'm running this kind of query, and the analyst can see it how it works, and it can learn from the Copilot as well.
Yeah, and that's very important because you kind of like verify it also that it does, and you learn, and then you can spot mistakes if you're like if there's a misunderstanding, like maybe did your prompt wrong or something.
Yeah, and the prompt wrong or answer can be also wrong at this point. I mean, we are building something completely new, and we want the feedback loop from the analyst as well. That okay, this is off range. What you're talking, what you're hallucinating.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's gonna definitely happen, and then it needs to be like a two-way communication in a way that now that went wrong.
Exactly.
But it's gonna be
still not a silver bullet. We still haven't invented a silver bullet.
It's gonna be in building the product anyway. That feedback loop.
But it does learn.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Then these are the use cases what we are first tackle. Okay, we need the defender, we need the sentinel, and what we want to do in the first phase is posture management, incident response. I think the incident response is in the very core of it, and then the reporting. And if we start from the posture management, think about it. This has knowledge of global threat intel, huge amount of it.
Yeah, you do run a big threat intel.
Yeah, it knows your vulnerabilities, your configuration, your posture. Think about asking questions that, okay, what's the latest today in threat intel? Okay, this one. Are we vulnerable? Yes. Which devices? These. Oh, maybe I need to do something. Yes, that kind of prompting is going to happen. And we were discussing before this show that this is not like automatically taking tasks that, at least at this point, automatically taking tasks that okay, I will do this for you.
Yeah.
But you need to drive it. You need to have those questions, analyze the incident. What is the situation here? So you need to drive it.
Oh, so it's not a security pilot; it's a co-pilot.
Yeah,
as it
yeah.
says.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the incident response, as I said, this is the core. Think that we have the XDR and CM already has the incident there, and it has all the underlying data. There's a bits and pieces. You need to understand what this means, and there's many places to look at. But okay, what happened? Can you summarize me what happened? Visualize it even more. What is currently happening? Explain me. Analyze. What is this script? Tell me. I'm a human. What is this attack? What is this technique? What does it mean? Reverse engineer this and that. So that kind of questions and answers we can get, not matter of hours when some people start studying it, but it has the data. It can tell it that.
I use like the ChatGPT weekly at my work, asking some stuff, not necessarily security stuff, but some other stuff. Because I'm a manager, it's usually related to stuff that I don't understand, which is like finance stuff and whatever. But but it can explain those to me, like what is this and what do I need to calculate and stuff like this.
And of course now that the difference is that it runs in your tenant. Your data is your data, and you can use it with your data.
Exactly.
When you use ChatGPT, you probably don't want to.
No, that's why I ask very general questions about stuff.
Then the final part, security reporting, the favorite. Every SOC analyst probably loves this one. Create a report. What happened about this incident? They probably just love it. So it can take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it needs to be overlooked because some other important tasks waiting in the queue or something like that. But I had an interesting conversation with one of the customers maybe half a year ago or something like that. They had an incident, rather big one, and they had to formalize all kinds of reports about the incident to different stakeholders. Technical report, summary, to C-level, external stakeholders, press, and you all have used ChatGPT, and you can say that, okay, write me this with this kind of theme.
Yeah.
And figure out that, think that, okay, can you summarize me here? Can you give me a PowerPoint? Yes, here. Can you give me 2 slides with this kind of person looking at it? Can you summarize it?
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah.
It would make my life easier, definitely.
Yeah.
Especially the PowerPoint part. Or if it can do Excels too, that's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Last slide. Go find more information from here, aka.ms/security copilot. There's some videos, how we drive it, how you can drive it, what kind of use cases, how does it look like. We're not going to demonstrate it here today, but we are in the, let's say, we launched it in March. We're still in the early phases. We are running early access program in it. We'll see where it goes. I'm not going to disclose any dates here, but definitely something.
One day.
One day. Definitely something I would say all of us benefit in some way. We probably just need to learn a little bit, drive it.
Yeah, it definitely changes things, that's for sure. But I'm interested in seeing what the change is and how it's going to change. Hopefully it will make my life easier, at least. It sounds like it. Thanks for that.
And absolutely, and it's important that we as Nixu, that we follow and start evaluating those use cases early. Of course, we have been able to identify many that are very interesting for us, from Tier 1 analysts, as you mentioned, those use cases, and also for the Tier 2 who do the more in-depth and the kind of and the reporting and feedback loop, enhancing that is important for both there. But even for of course, like a CISO role, or our customer ITs, that the security information is in a more accessible format, because they can work with natural language. So
we are also looking at our like detection and or detection engineering part of that, like how
Right.
could we utilize it for, if there's something there. It's not like maybe that clear and visible, I guess, at this stage, what we could do, but it's something definite that we are looking into and seeing like how we can use this to do even meaningful detections, or maybe some enrichments or something like this.
Yeah, and remember, this is like a first step. That's how I would say the version 1 is gonna look like, and do those SOC analysts tasks and help them. As I said, there's a whole variety of other products.
Yeah,
The idea is that it's gonna be built in there as well.
that's cool.
Exciting stuff.
So I guess it's time for Q&A.
There we go. Welcome to back to our studio. We're here for the Q&A portion of this webinar. Do we also have? It's me and Marco here at the table. Do we also have Antti on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent. You're a bit quiet still, so let's see if we can get you.
All right. Let me try to adjust things on this side.
We can hear you loud and clear now.
All right, good.
So thanks again for all of you who attended today's webinar. We hope that you found it useful, of course. We have a few questions that came in during the session, and so we'll try to address those as well as we can. So first of all, I think this goes to you, Antti. There's a question from regarding log analytics. So instead of log analytics, can we use ADLS Gen 2 and optimize the costs? So relating to the data lake solution that you were talking about. Is that true, and how far are the benefits that we can bring with ADLS?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. In theory, one could use only ADLS Gen 2 to do everything, but there are some caveats with that, because the data lake is not as fast as the log analytics workspace in terms of doing queries and stuff. It's because it's a data storage. It's not meant for this kind of like near real time detections or things. It's more for kind of like slower and slow and low things, kind of. Meaning that it's useful for advanced threat hunting or longer queries, but we still keep the log analytics workspace there, because that's what Sentinel is built on top, or is running on top. So we need to put in data there that we need for like near real-time detections. Let's map them under that. And then the rest of the data goes to AD, or actually all the data goes to ADLS Gen 2. And that's basically how we've designed it to work. I'm not going to share details. That's the secret sauce thing that you get from us, but in principle, that's how it works. So we've tried to using only ADLS. It works, but it's in practice you need the log analytics still. Then it's about what to put into log analytics and what to put into ADLS Gen 2 and so forth.
All right, great. So thank you, Antti, and of course, yeah, best of both worlds. What we're trying to achieve there with the combination of the two. And I guess Marco, no surprise here. There's a question about the pricing of security copilots. Do you have anything to comment on that?
Not really, unfortunately. At this point, we haven't really disclosed what is the pricing and what is the way to license it, but we'll see. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you that. I don't even know it by myself. So
Right.
that's that.
So probably closer to the published date,
Yeah,
sometime next year.
Yeah.
We have another question here, just popped in, about how relevant do you see that as security analysts learn actual PowerShell and Custo query language, or even Python as security Copilot is coming along? What competence can be replaced by security Copilot, if any? Good question.
Yeah, it's a good one. I would say there's multiple aspects in this question. As a security analyst, if you're running Microsoft security stack, or you don't need to be an analyst. If you just run Microsoft security stack or Azure, you definitely should be learning KQL. It's core of pretty much everything. All data is queryable using that KQL. PowerShell, many of the attacks are happening using PowerShell in a way that it's good to understand that as well. Of course, you can subcontract some of that to Copilot, but essentially, if I would be an analyst, I would like to be learning those as well. What Copilot can do is that basically you have an idea what you want to look for. You can tell that in human language that I would let's look this one with this and this ground rules, and it can make you a query. We call it like a natural language to KQL. It's in the standalone Copilot. Well, basically we have a standalone Copilot, and then we have embedded solutions. For example, in XDR, it's inbuilt, so it can give you some sort of a guided response, and during the guided response, it can say that, okay, you probably want to try this kind of KQL as well to hunt for something what is happening around. But it can also do the queries based on your prompts, what you want to look for. So it can do that. Also, it can do the analyzing of well, adversaries use PowerShell a lot, or different kind of scripting, and many times in Windows they are PowerShell. So it can analyze you that, tell that this is what it does. But still, well, maybe not all need to learn this, but I would still be learning, even if I have like a Copilot doing it. That's for me.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is here that when you're using any of these AI-based tools, is that when they give an answer, if you are familiar with it, they have a tendency of not really lying, but they try their best, but they do mistakes. So you have to understand, if you get a KQL query as a try this, it is essential that you understand what the query does. So you need to understand the language, you need to be able to read it, and same goes with Python when you're using it. And this kind of hooks back to the data lake, because you can use Python there. So even if you can use an assistant to create the Python for you to make it faster, but you still need to understand what the code actually does. It's not perfect that they spill out, at least not yet, but well, when they are perfect, we might not be talking here, but let's see. That's still quite a bit far away. But it is essential to have the understanding of the KQL or any other language in future still.
Yeah, and as discussed in the moments ago, what the Copilot does, if you are a junior analyst, you can actually learn these skills from it. It can tell that what the PowerShell does, and you can learn from it. What the KQL does, you can learn from it as well. But I would still be learning if being an analyst, because, well, what Antti said,
yeah.
and
Absolutely.
Yeah, agreed.
Another question that we have regarding security Copilot, and I think you covered some of them, but how does it contribute to the modern SOC and its effectiveness?
Yeah,
I would say it's still early to say. What we are seeing because we are in the early access program phase at the moment, and we have few selected customers running it, but we see quite a dramatic increase, or is decrease, increase in effectiveness in a way that you can proceed faster, you can get things done faster. I think that's the main point of SOC: get things done. And if you, let's say, if you can do it 50% faster, that's a huge.
Of course.
But I would say that we still need to be. It needs to be seen where it goes. But I think that's one number we have given publicly out at this point, that it's really increasing the speed. Of course, there's many of the soft soft measures we can do, but
Exactly, yeah.
it's difficult to measure those. Did you want to have something?
No, not really. You covered it really well. The only thing certain is that it's gonna change things, but we don't know to which direction. Likely for better. And this is a business where time matters. So if things can be speed up, then it's of course positive. And the reliability, not sacrificing the reliability. And this also ties back to the previous question of understanding what the security pilot gives you, or sort of hints what the answer would be. You need to understand. It's still the human that has should be able to have the holistic view of things and the broader understanding.
Yeah, that's a good point. So exactly, if a more junior analyst, for example, is able to pull out the relevant data by being able to, use the natural language instead of having to know the KQL or PowerShell equivalents, then of course that makes the analyst more effective. Of course, the more senior analysts that we have, they have libraries ready of, and they are quite efficient at writing those KQLs themselves. So.
All right, should we take another one? So what challenges or security threats have you encountered during the adoption of XDR platform solutions? I guess that goes only to you, or maybe I can address that as well. But
yeah, so I guess we could think about it in the perspective of us as a security service provider, but also in the perspective of the end user organization that is adopting XDR. Well, for both groups, I would say that moving from a kind of single alert-based queue in the incident queue into these more complex XDR incidents, it just requires a little bit of a different mindset from the analyst, because they're quite used to having, for example, an endpoint or an email alert, but having that graph of events tying in together, there's a different process involved for us as Nixu as a service provider, but also to our customers in how the analyst should go about performing the analysis and managing those different alerts within the incident object.
So there's kind of a pain and gain having that correlation happening for you. Yeah, I see that.
Adoption of any kind of new technology, I guess it's a little bit, but I think we at Nixu we've done a very good job in adopting the new XDR technology, and of course there are benefits of having the kind of a single incident object then compared to the old alerts queue.
Yeah, maybe me from a Microsoft perspective and more like a customer perspective, maybe here, what I see is that the challenges that it's quite, if we think about our XDR stack, it's quite easy to take into use. It's quite easy to enable it, but really the challenges come first of all, the knowledge transfer for new tooling for the customer as well. But the other thing is that the whole, really taking the whole advantage of the XDR platform, not just enable it and wait for the alerts.
Right.
So fine tuning is one thing, but also taking those capabilities to the protection layer as well, and really using like you can even do network stuff with it. So having really widely and measuring out the whole benefits of it, that's the challenge sometimes. And one thing what I see quite often is that the XDR platform evolves so fast that customers don't know that you actually you have this capability, you own it, but you are not just using it because we released it like a half a year ago.
Right. So
it's there. Have you noticed this? So those were mostly challenges, but I don't know about the threat part too much, but yes, we have seen threats as well.
Right, yeah. Great, thank you. And we have one more question here. Earlier at the webinar, you talked about threat modeling as part of adoption and implementing SIEM solutions in order to utilize all the data sources. Is there a Microsoft tool or documentation on threat modeling, and how would one start learning it? This is a good question. I think there is threat modeling, some kind of threat modeling capability built into Sentinel, at least that you can model the detections that you have built into the SIEM towards the MITRE framework across the different techniques and tactics.
Yeah, this is a difficult one. Maybe Antti, you have something, but well, of course in the Sentinel you have the MITRE attack, let's say heat map, but in a sense that already is done. The threat modeling is already there, so you can quickly estimate your coverage, and don't take it like if you have some colors over there, you are done, because through purple teaming and stuff like that, you probably should be verifying that they are actually working as well, because that matches your analytics to MITRE tactics and techniques, and saying that, okay, I may have coverage here, but please verify. What comes to threat modeling, maybe here it's more like some custom thing that I have an application here, and maybe Antti, this goes to your AppSoc concept more, that and you can elaborate on that, but I'm not very good person to talk about that threat modeling part.
All right, I can take it from here. It's one of my favorite topics and things that I like to do the most is this threat modeling. And yeah, there is the MITRE mapping or threat mapping, I'd say, rather than modeling in the Sentinel, which is really good, so that you can see compare your detections or capabilities to the MITRE attack framework. And you have to remember, it's not a coloring book. You are not supposed to cover all those boxes, but you have to cover those relevant boxes to your environment. And here's where the threat mapping comes into play, which is something you do before you start implementing, whether it's a new system you monitor or new application stack. For example, what we do in application SOC, where we monitor or build detection and monitoring capabilities for full application stacks, including the development pipelines and stuff. So that's a big thing. But we also use the same methodology for basically for any other system, whether it's also a smaller one. We want to understand like what are the associated threats to this system. And for that, we have developed our own tooling, which is of course business secret. So I'm not going to share too much details at this point. But basically the idea is that you do try to, instead of getting the data just in where you have data, you try to understand what is the system, what are the associated threats to that system, who might be even the usual suspects targeting this kind of a system, that takes into your business, your line of business, the industry, and these. And those are available, for example, in the MITRE ATT&CK framework. You can dig this information, and that's readily available in Sentinel, which is really cool because you can then map it back to that. Okay, these are and verify kind of like your threat modeling and your capabilities. And also, as was mentioned by colleagues here, is that please do test your capabilities. It is essential to test them regularly, that whether your detections actually work, because environments change all the time. Your systems get updated, things change all the time. It's a living organism, so you have to keep up to date yourself and verify your things. And also doing the threat model as a regular exercise. Maybe it depends on the product life cycle, but let's say yearly, bi-yearly, whatever, but do it regularly. I hope that answers the question. Oh, there was the how would one start learning it? There are good courses on the internet. I can't remember any of them by heart, but yeah, maybe we could add some links or something there where to start somewhere in the.
Absolutely, thank you.
Like released. Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit. As I said, I'm not a really expert on this threat modeling part, but if you think about your own application and as part of Microsoft security development lifecycle, we have a threat modeling tool included there. But that's pretty much how far I've been there in the really development. But it's essential part anyway, because you should take the security considerations already as early as possible when you are developing something. So, but yeah.
Yeah, the Microsoft tool, I forgot to mention, that's a good start to have that if you have a like SDLC, software development lifecycle thing. So that's a good start. Then you can add your own source on top of that, depending on your organizations.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Antti. And indeed, yes, so what we will do is after this webinar concludes, we will be sending out an email to all the participants with all the questions and relevant links to those. So I'm sure we can link, for example, the Sentinel heat map and some broadly accepted, good sources for threat modeling to get started with the learning of it. And I think that was all of the questions that we got. So we will start to wrap up here in Keilaniemi, and thank you very much also to everybody who joined today, and also to Antti who joined us on the line.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks from Tampere too.
Great. Have a great afternoon.